Okay, we're going to put the heads together now. Parts over here lined up. Okay, this one here for the twin cam, they use an external seal, not like the stock one. So this is the seal installer they use. So whatever you use, you got to make sure that the installer does not hit on the lip here, the seal right here. So when you put together, there's room for it to be clearance, it won't hit. So you got to make sure that clears. Okay, we're back. Interruptions. Okay, anyway, on the seal lip, you got to make sure that it doesn't engage, drag on the inside of this thing when you put in the installer. Because if it does, it can screw up the lip of the seal, or bend the spring, or cause other issues and make the seal bad. These are, what do you got here? These are sealed on the inside of the retainer, the steel cladding they call that. It's the cup, whatever you want, a lot of different names. Anyway, this has a soft inner liner, so you can pretty much just push these on with your hand, or just maybe just a very light tap. The disadvantage of this style is they're a lot thicker diameter than the old Evo style seals, so you cannot put the collar on over the seal. So the seal's bigger, so you gotta make sure that's not a problem. The other thing we gotta do is we gotta do a measurement here and make sure we don't have not enough install clearance, which I forgot to do. So basically, you just take this right now, measure the height of your seal. This seal is basically a 1/2 inch tall. So go ahead and install one valve here. Do the exhaust. Spin it around. Figure you're going to have a 1/2 inch up. Okay, it's not going to hit on the bottom of that, it's going to hit on the bottom of the valve guide, or top of the valve guide. Damn it. So now I'm going to measure the inside here. We have roughly 360, so figure 3/8 of an inch, 375 is what we have going over. Actually, I'm going to go the other direction. So you got 350 of that is going over the valve guide. So that means you're going to have 150 thousandths sticking out above the top of the guide. So then you got to put your collar and keeper on there and measure that, make sure it doesn't interfere, don't have any contact in there. I already know we got a ton of that, but we'll just show you here how to measure this stuff so you know. All these little measurements and stuff you got to do. If you don't do it, you could have problems. That's why performance jobs cost a lot more money to do, because there's a lot more time and effort put into them. Okay, right now we have roughly a little over 900 thousandths clearance between the retainer and the top of your valve guide here. Obviously, if you take 150 that off for the seal, even if you go 200 just to be really safe, you still got 700 thou clearance. So obviously that's a non-issue because this cam only lifts, you know, at most you can have a 600 lift cam, so you still got over 100 thou clearance between the bottom of the retainer and your seal. So that's this clearance we're looking at right here, which comes and hits. Oop, where it is. So you want to make sure you have at least 50 thou clearance in there. You know, it's a safe minimum. You can be within 30, but it's better to be at 50. We're obviously going to be over 1/8 of an inch clearance when we're done. So one more clearance you have to check. At least it helps. If you don't have enough clearance, you'll tag the valve seal and screw it up. Then it might not work too good. Alright, now we can get to actually really do some assembly work. So we want to take our assembly lube, put it on the valve, and go and put it in the hole. Always like to spin them as I go in. Work them back a couple times, spread the oil around a little bit. Okay, very important, do not forget to put your lower collar on. Then you take your seal, just kind of wiggle them a little bit as I go over the lip real slow. This one's a lot of lips, so you got to do it a bunch of times. If you have to force it over it, then you're working too hard. Okay, we go ahead and push this on. Obviously that does not want to go on, so we have to tap it on. Hopefully they gave us the right seals. They're going on pretty hard. Lots of bouncing, not much going. I'll take a direct measurement with my scale. See if we still have all our clearance that we wanted. Looks like we're going to still have plenty of clearance. So this first one here is the one we got to measure. That gives us a baseline for the other 4 or the other 3. They got 4 valves. And we check our measurement here. So it looks like we have about 750. So we still got our 150. So now we know we have the seal all the way down. We're going to have roughly, it's roughly 650 above the guide, or 150 the valve guide showing below the seal. Will tell us it's all the way on. So that way we know they're on all the way. Alright, so that all looks good. We'll go ahead and take the intake valve now, do the same thing. I could put a little bit of oil on top of the guide to make that slip on easier, but if I do that, it'll slip off easier too. That would be a bad thing. There's that. Take our seal again, wiggle around a little bit to get it to go down, and we'll go ahead and tap it on lightly. Quite all the way down yet. Okay, it's most of the way down. One more just in case. What happens every time you push on the seal here with a hammer, the damn camera, there it is. The plastic in here is pretty much like a big sponge. It catches it and pushes it, bounces back each time you hit it, but it goes down a little bit further each time. But there's a lot of spring back because it's got elastic. A lot of elasticity going on this material they got. So just slow, light hits. If you hit it too hard, you can push the guide down in the head further, and that would not be good. That would cause your valve job to not be very accurate. Okay, so now we got that on. Now we go actually put the valve springs on. Okay, we're doing exhaust, so make sure you get all your exhaust parts lined up. This is our conical spring here. I'm using a pneumatic valve spring compressor here. That means it's air operated. Make sure you're on the valve head. These have very small holes through the collar, so you got to make sure you get it in there in the right spot. Must not have much of a taper on the other side, so I had to hit it a few times. And that pops it right off. Make sure it looks like it's all there in there all the way. Looks good so far. We're going to do another one. This will be our intake valve. Now, what kind of a taper do we have? Yeah, see on the inside edge of this, there's no taper on the inside of the collar here, so you have to hit the valve stem pretty accurate or it won't go. A lot of times there's a big taper in there, so it goes in easier. So you got to kind of eyeball a little bit closer when you go in. See, practice helps, see. Once you get the first one figured out, they repeat pretty closely. These are screwed up again. You never know. You come out a little bit at a time to make sure the keeper stays in a groove. And you look at it again. It looks good. And one thing I always like to do is I like to take a hammer and a screwdriver. Need a smaller one this time. Where's my smaller screwdriver at? And I purposely put them both out. There it is, buried in the corner underneath something else. Figures. Okay, I just take it and just give it a light tap push the screwdriver, I put it right on top of the keeper and give it just a little light tap. 1, 2. That just makes sure it's in the groove all the way and centered. With the multi-groove keeper, you got to pretty much go in every time, but with a single groove keeper, you could be on the edge of it on a burr and it would pop on you. Or it wouldn't be in the groove at all. I've had that happen. So you always catch it before you do it, before you run the bike. So anyway, you look at that, they're all the way down deep and even. You look to make sure the seal has still got your clearances up between the springs in here. Just do a quick once over, make sure there's no metal burrs or anything around. Make sure everything looks good, and then you're good to go. And there's what it looks like with it installed in a port job. You can see how most of the valve you can see, which is good. That was the exhaust. This one here's the intake over here. So you can see how most of the valve head you can see. That means you're going to get a pretty open port. And it's nice and even, as you can tell, equal. So anyway, that's what it looks like when you get them all together. I'm going to do the other one off camera. You don't need to see me do it twice, I don't think. So anyway, this head's pretty well done for now. And I got to work on the intake and injector manifold a little bit, but other than that, the head part is done.